Well, Frank, I know people around the league sure like to talk trades, and the players don't like to do that a whole lot. It's a nervous time once you get into the off season, knowing that your name could be called even during the season. And, as always, there's some names that might be surprising. And one of those right now is Alex DeBrincat, the Chicago Blackhawks forward. This guy's a 40-plus goal scorer, Frank. Right now, you have him as number one on your trade targets board, and that could surprise some Blackhawks fans. Why is he available potentially?
Well, there's a number of reasons why. One is the Chicago Blackhawks are entering into this rebuild. Kyle Davidson, their GM, has been really clear about where they stand and what their expectations are. And so they have, I don't think people realize how limited resources the Blackhawks have in terms of what's coming next and what's in their pipeline. DeBrincat, as a two-time 40 goal scorer that's now 24, has a ton of value on that market. And so he's the one player that can jumpstart and help you stockpile assets as you begin this rebuild. The second part of that is they're really probably on a 5-year path to be competitive. At that point, Alex DeBrincat will be 29 or give or take, maybe even 30, depending on how the contracts work out. And is towards the latter end of his prime stage and availability or value at that point. The third part of it is, well, when you look at his contract and the way that it's structured, he's entering the last year of his deal at 6.4 million on the AAV. But on top of that, he has a $9 million qualifying offer that's due on the back end of that. It's a contract that will be expensive. And if you're the Chicago Blackhawks, do you really want to be paying big tickets for players on a team that is not expected or doesn't even want to be very good as they're trying to turn things over? So the answer for me is it's a matter of when and not if Alex DeBrincat will be traded. It's either going to be this summer or it's going to be at the deadline. I always happen to think that teams can have more teams in the mix and can get more for him in the offseason as opposed to the deadline. And I believe strongly that the Chicago Blackhawks will be considering that moving forward as they now begin to engage in talks and have gotten calls already on Alex DeBrincat.
Those aren't words that you want to hear as a player. A team that doesn't want to be good. You wonder about Kane and Taves down the road. The Oilers have some interesting decisions ahead of them, Frank, and they're going to need a goaltender next year. They also need some depth, and they've got three players that have ended up on your trade board. What's going on up in Edmonton?
Yeah, so Tyson Barrie lands inside the top 10. You see him here at number 8. And the big thing for the Edmonton Oilers is going to try and create as much salary cap flexibility as possible. That's like a 3-word phrase that's going to be a huge buzzword throughout these next number of weeks. A number of teams are going to be trying to do it. The Vancouver Canucks are another. But the Edmonton Oilers want to take a run at trying to re-sign Evander Kane. He's not going to be inexpensive, probably will require some term. And when you look at the Oilers, I don't think they're down on Tyson Barrie. He came in again this year and contributed, another 40 points on the back end, someone that's a power play facilitator and fits in well. But if you have someone in Philip Broberg that can come in next year and help on that right side with Evan Bouchard, with Cody Ceci, Tyson Barrie at that cap hit, $4.5 million for each of the next 2 seasons, may be a little bit more than you want to spend. So I do believe the Oilers are going to continue to look at the trade market for Tyson Barrie and see if they can find a fit. And the other 2 guys that popped up on our board were Jesse Puljujärvi and or Kyler Yamamoto. I think it's a safe bet, Mike, to say that one of those 2 players will not be back with the Oilers next season. Both fan favorites, both guys that are pending restricted free agents and arbitration eligible. We mentioned the cap flexibility and what they may be looking for. I think Warren Foegele is another possibility to be traded. And coincidentally enough, Ethan Bear, who the Oilers traded, is also on our trade targets board from the Carolina Hurricanes. But the Oilers, they're not going to be able to afford to keep everyone. Puljujärvi is a guy that looked lost in the playoffs. Yamamoto contributed a bit more. And I think ultimately, if you compare those 2 players, the Bison King and Yamo, that 2 fan favorites in that market, they'd like to try and keep Yamamoto, but I think he's also the guy, Mike, that will bring you a better return. So they might end up having to move on from him. So those are some names to consider in oil country.
Yeah, Yamamoto is more of a proven commodity there. We know what to expect, and if cap flexibility is really the currency that everyone's looking for, there's some players around the league that have also caught that attention, and one of them's an old teammate of mine, Philippe Myers, who's with the Nashville Predators, and I'm a little surprised by this one, Frank. So why did he make the cut?
So Phil Myers actually already went through waivers already, and teams had an opportunity to pick him up for free and didn't do so. He struggled a bit in Nashville, was a healthy scratch for a big chunk of last season. And on top of that, that cap hit just doesn't make sense for what he's able to provide at the NHL level at this moment. And when you take a look at his buyout, it's actually got a really unique feature. It's a salary cap quirk to it, where if you were to buy him out because he is under the age of 26 and because his contract was backloaded, that the team would actually end up with a salary cap credit for next season. So for some team out there that's looking to find a way to generate more salary cap space, you work out a trade with the Nashville Predators. In this case, so that the Preds don't have to buy him out and they don't have to pay him that $3.8 million in real money next season. You trade for him probably for nothing, and then you buy out Philip Myers, and at that point you'll end up with a $600,000+ credit on your cap next season. It'll be a $600,000 charge the year after that. So a net change of nothing. But if you're a team, I don't know, I'm just going to throw a few out there. The Florida Panthers, who have dead cap money, the Minnesota Wild, who have dead cap money, every another $600,000 is just one more player that you can add to your roster basically for free at league minimum. So I'd expect Phil Myers to be moving in short order somewhere.
Well, there's no shortage of things that are happening around the league. And with game 5 tonight between the Rangers and Lightning, our friends at DoorDash, delivered by DoorDash, Icebreakers, if you use the promo code Frank, DFODD, or DFODD in the US, that's going to get you 25% off your first order, free shipping. I tell you what, man, I really don't want to cook tonight. I just want to chill, take it easy, watch this game, enjoy it. Your friends at DoorDash are here for you. Great job, Frank, on Icebreakers as always. Moving right along here to take a look at the next stage of the show.